Welcome back, party people. First and foremost, if you are watching this on YouTube, I have to say, I am not looking my best right now. I got food poisoning last night. It is what it is. We are still here. I told myself I was going to film today, and the best way to build self-trust is to do the things you say you're going to do. So even if I am not feeling pristine, I'm not feeling 100% today, I'm still going to show up and create this video because we've got things that need to be said. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Alexa. I'm a life and death coach. I talk about all different kinds of things to help you live better and die better. And today I'm going to go over 5 unhinged things that a lot of men do not understand about women. Obviously, this is not a blanket statement. Not every man is unaware of these things. These are just things that maybe he hasn't thought about, maybe are perspectives that might be useful for him to understand about her. Because let's be honest, men and women are socialized differently, we're raised differently, we're treated differently. Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm just acknowledging it for what it is. And because we are socialized differently and because our biologies are different, sometimes there's a lot of miscommunications. So the purpose of this series is to help men and women understand each other better. And there's also a link below for some unhinged things that women don't necessarily always understand about men. And finally, before I get into it, my guys and my gals, please let me know in the comments below if this resonates, if there's something that I think that I missed, or something you would want me to include in a future series, because I will be making more of these. So without further ado, thing number 1 that a lot of men do not understand about women. A lot of men do not understand why women utilize criticism or why it is something that she often reverts to. I will preface this by saying I am not a proponent of criticism. I am not saying that I believe in it. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm not trying to make it right. I'm not trying to say you should listen to everything that she does. I just want you to understand that if she is criticizing you, it's not necessarily because she thinks that you're incapable. A lot of the times it's because she is trying to communicate a desire for something to change. And if she was never given the tools to communicate it healthily, she doesn't know that there's a better way to ask, or she has issues with asking to have her own needs and wants and desires met, which isn't necessarily your fault. But if those are things that she's experiencing, asking for change in a way that actually lands for you as a man may not be something that she really understands how to do. And it's not because she's incompetent and it's not because she's incapable. It's probably just because she wasn't necessarily given the tools for this. I feel like this is similar to when a woman brings her problems to a man and he immediately wants to solve it, and maybe she just wanted him to listen. If he doesn't know that there is an option to say, do you want me to help you try to fix this or just listen? Then he might constantly revert to trying to fix it because that's his version of trying to create change in her life. And for her, potentially criticism is a way of trying to create change in his. And the reason why is that women, our brains are programmed to be very socially responsive. If someone doesn't like something that we're doing and they tell us, the analogy I like to use is if they don't like that Julia's wearing orange and they tell her, Julia, orange doesn't look good on you. She, as a woman, cannot not think about that. She may decide not to ever act on it. She may decide, you know what, fuck you, I like the color orange, I don't need to think about this again. But there will be at least one time, I can almost guarantee you, that she will do the color analysis thing. She will look in the mirror with the color orange. She will really analyze, oh, is this person saying something that actually could be true? And it's not a deficit to her. It's not because she doesn't have enough self-esteem. It's because the way that our brains are wired as women is we want to form the strongest relationships, the strongest connections in our tribe. And so if someone deeply despises something that we're doing or does anything that feels resemblant of rejection, a piece of our biology is automatically going, oh my God, well, what do I need to change in order to keep this relationship? Not saying it's healthy, just the way that it biologically is. And so sometimes when she wants to see a change in your relationship, in your behavior, or even if she sees potential in you that maybe she sees you're not quite meeting, if she doesn't know that there's a way to say things that will naturally inspire you to step up, her brain will believe that you will respond to criticism in the way that her brain might respond to criticism. And I cannot stress enough how much I am not trying to excuse this behavior, but it is something that I think is really important that we understand why women do this in the first place. Because a lot of the times men will misinterpret it and think that it's because he's not good enough or he can't do anything right. And so sometimes the nagging, critical, berating energy that some women, not all, but some women will put out is just her way to try to create change and not knowing a better way to do it. So my guys, if this is something that resonates for you or something that you've experienced, it might benefit you to sit down with her and let her know some other things that she could say that might actually get the best out of you. And a lot of the times when you do this, if you're showing that you're proactively trying to enhance your relationship with her, she will actually be appreciative of that. And if she gets defensive about it, I'm sorry, feel free to send her to my work. But I think that most level-headed women, if they really understood that there was a better way to do something that might get a better result out of their man, and it was very clear to her what that thing was, she might be more willing to do it. Second thing that a lot of men do not necessarily understand about women is that women crave ownership. They crave the ownership of the man that they choose to be with. And this does not mean that he owns her. This does not mean that she is his property. This does not mean that he controls her. It simply means that he is willing to step up and take ownership, for example, when he does something wrong, or when he potentially misleads them or misleads their relationship. And it also means that he takes a level of ownership and responsibility over her experience, not because she is incapable of doing it. I think in a healthy relationship, she should be taking ownership of her own experience because it is her responsibility. And also, if she is craving a deep partnership with you, a lot of the times what she's craving is to be taken in as a part of you in the way that she is willing to take you in as a part of herself. So if you actively show her that you are concerned with her experience, for example, how when you work late nights, maybe that does affect her and her sense of stress or her sense of trust in you. By acknowledging it and showing that you care, not necessarily changing everything that you do because your world does not need to completely revolve around her, but when you show her that her experience matters to you and the effort that you put in is in service of giving her a better experience or is an attempt to give her a better experience, that enables her to soften and to trust you more, because when she knows that you are taking her into consideration in the strength of your leadership, she feels more able to surrender to it. I'm not saying that this will apply to every single woman and man in every single relational situation, but a lot of the times women will surrender to something when they trust it. And trust in a man will happen when he shows very clearly that he takes ownership of her experience, i.e. they think about things in advance, they think about how things might make her feel. They are considerate to how she is interpreting the world around her. And I'm not encouraging you guys to change who you are to make her feel better, but the willingness to acknowledge her feelings about you or about your behaviors or about the way that you're showing up is a way that you can show her that you care. And most women will really appreciate that. Thing number 3 that a lot of men do not necessarily understand about women is that women really appreciate the small things. And the small things are actually really the big things for us. Do you give her a random kiss on her cheek just because you love her? Do you send her a text or give her a call in the middle of the day because you're thinking about her and you want her to know that? Do you bring her flowers for no apparent reason, no holiday, no anniversary, just because you knew that this was something that would brighten her world and you wanted to do that? These little small gestures mean so much to women, and while it is not necessarily the same gesture that's going to work for all women, because I can tell you with great honesty, some women could give 2 fucks about getting flowers. But whatever the small thing is for her, and it's your responsibility if you're in a relationship with her to figure out what those small things are, or to ask her, and it's her responsibility to communicate it with you. When you go out of your way to do it, even if to you it feels like a very small, inconsequential thing, for her it's going to mean a ton. This is why small things like taking out the garbage can turn into huge arguments, because to her, that's a small gesture that, again, would take very little effort on your part. And her brain, not saying that this is right, but her brain says, well, if he loved me and it takes that little effort, why won't he just do it? But to you as a guy, maybe you have other things that you're doing and that's not top of the list, and rightfully so, it doesn't necessarily have to be top of the list. But I'm just letting you know that the more that you invest in those small little moments, those small little opportunities, those do go a very long way for women. And while for you as a guy, you may be like, I am going to work 12 hours a day, I am the breadwinner, I am providing for our family, I am doing this, I am getting up early, I am going to the gym, I'm doing all these things for her and for our relationship, which if she has not said thank you to you for those things, thank you on behalf of all women, because we love you for doing that and for the sacrifices that you make. And also, please understand that sometimes those really big things, which do mean a ton and do make a huge difference, when you can incorporate a couple little small things here and there throughout the week, that's going to help her continue to feel connected to you, because she doesn't necessarily feel connected to you by the fact that you're going to work every day. She may appreciate it, it may provide for the family, but again, women are attuned to connection. We are very hyper attuned to relationships. So if there's not those small little touch points of small things that you're doing to show her that the connection that you guys have, not just the roles that you play in each other's lives, but the connection that you have really matters to you, those small touch points will make a huge difference for her. The 4th thing that a lot of men don't necessarily understand about women is the degree to which a man's capacity to regulate himself, regulate his emotions in a healthy way matters to her sense of safety in her body. None of this should be new information for you guys. Men are the larger and stronger creature of the two of us. Okay, there's a lot of strength and power that women have in our own respective ways, but physical strength is a gift that men have over women. And a lot of men don't understand that when he becomes emotionally dysregulated, maybe he gets upset, maybe he gets angry, if he's not able to contain his own emotions and express them in a way that's healthy, I'm not saying repress them, that is not something that I recommend doing, but if he can't express them in a way that is healthy to her, her nervous system is going to respond to that in 10x the way that he would respond if she was angry. And the reason is because, historically speaking, if a woman was around a man who was incredibly angry, that was one of the largest threats that we would ever come across. Even if you as a man would never lay your hand on a woman, biologically, we're still programmed to register whether or not you're upset, whether or not you're angry. And when you are superbly angry, it makes us feel even smaller because we know subconsciously that in a fight against you, we likely aren't going to win. And I do believe with such high levels of strength also comes a level of responsibility, because for her, the stakes when you get angry are so much higher than they are for you when she gets angry. Again, biologically speaking, of course, when there are things like weapons and poison and all kinds of other crap that people have brought up to me, yes, those things have even out the playing field, if you will. But I'm just talking strict biology. If it is a man and a woman, and he is dysregulated to the point where she does not know whether or not she is safe in his presence, the threat that she experiences is something that I can almost guarantee you men probably don't understand unless you have been in a state where you have actually genuinely feared for your life. And none of this has to do with whether or not he's a good man or a bad man. Again, it is just programming. Yes, it is her job to remove herself from a situation and regulate herself. I'm not saying that you as a man need to be responsible for 100% of her emotion. And also, if you are a man and you're in a relationship with a woman and you want to show up better for that relationship, this is something that I highly encourage you to keep in mind. There's a really beautiful post on Instagram by What Evolved Women Want, and I absolutely adore this post, and it is titled Why Men Lead Repair. So if you want to read into this more, I highly recommend you go check that post out. The TLDR version is that the way that men and women are wired is very different. When men and women's nervous systems activate, they don't activate the same way, and we don't recover the same way. So for men, they will notice a threat or a stressor, and oftentimes they need to regulate. Usually regulating means stepping away, going into his man cave, doing whatever he needs to do, maybe exercising, doing something to kind of metabolize that emotion, the challenges that he's dealing with, move through it, and then he can return to the problem and solve it from a more level-headed space. And my guys, please let me know in the comments of this video if that resonates with you. But for women, the way that we recover from a threat is first ensuring that the threat is no longer there. And because of the biological difference between man and woman, man is presented as a threat to woman, even if, again, he is not actively threatening her. From a biological standpoint, if she recognizes this man is angry, and if that anger is turned against me, I'm in the shit, she needs to make sure that that threat is no longer there. And so a lot of the times when an argument happens or a fight happens, she's not actively trying to withhold love or kindness from him. She's waiting until she sees that, quote unquote, the coast is clear, or until she sees that it is safe to be vulnerable again. And so for this reason, I now believe that men should be the ones to initiate repair, not because they're taking responsibility, but because it is up to him to be regulated enough to be able to have the conversation. And if he is still angry or hostile about a situation, or he's unable to be moderately composed in having a discussion with her, for her, when she continues to poke that bear, it's going to put her deeper and deeper into a sense of being threatened. Rupture and repair is a very normal part of relationships, so I would never argue that a man should not get angry in the presence of his woman. I think that that would be ludicrous. But for this reason, I do believe that when that happens, it is very important that he communicates to her when he is ready to have that moment of repair. Because the second that he initiates, I'm ready to have repair, her nervous system, which was flooded with stress, is now able to relax and to respond to his leadership. And she likely cannot concede to doing something wrong so long as she feels threatened by him, because in the event that he's going to double down on her, maybe if she does admit that she did something wrong or she could have done something better, that puts her in an even deeper state of threat. And so you can see how this cycle will never be fully resolved until he's able to be composed. The fifth and final thing that a lot of men do not necessarily understand about women is that women's biology is actually incredibly predictable. For a long time, there was a lot of chit-chat about women being emotionally unstable and ungrounded and all over the place and unpredictable. And actually, if you really pay attention to a woman's cycle and where she is at on that cycle, you can with pretty damn good accuracy anticipate how she might be feeling on any given day, provided that you understand where she is at. And one thing that I do want to note about this, which comes up a lot in Dr. Hill's The Period Brain, which is a phenomenal book and I highly recommend it, is that men's reproductive cycle has one primary purpose. And that purpose is fulfilled with testosterone. Women have two. We have estrogen, which is the hormone that is going to help us to get pregnant, but then we also have progesterone, which has the responsibility of carrying a pregnancy to term. And I know that we pretty much all learned this theoretically in biology, but I don't think a lot of us understand how this actually impacts us in our day-to-day life, because women basically have two separate modes. We have the follicular mode, which is primarily ruled by estrogen. In those roughly 2 weeks, we have one very specific purpose. And everything about the way that our body is designed is incredibly intelligent. So what we crave, what we want to eat, the way that we feel, the way that we will best benefit from exercise, the way that we want to interact with the world around us, everything in that period, everything in that phase of our cycle is designed to help us get what? Pregnant, even if we don't want to. And everything about our bodies in the luteal phase is designed to help us carry a healthy pregnancy to term should we get pregnant. Everything from the way that her immune system functions, to the way that she metabolizes food, to the way that she wants to relate to other people, to her core body temperature, everything changes. But these changes are cyclical, and they are reliable, and they are predictable. And if you take the time to get to know them, it's actually very easy to anticipate what her needs might be, how she might be feeling, what her insecurities might be at any point in her cycle. You support a woman through all phases of her cycle. She is able to thrive and give in a way that is so radiant and so much healthier than when she is trying to work herself and overwork herself. Men, your hormones reset every 24 hours. For us women, it's roughly every 28 days. And a really interesting thing to note is that men, actually, your testosterone is responsive to the world around you. And a great example of this is if you watch a group of guys at a sporting event, or you watch guys in their training, or when they're in the gym, or when they get angry, or when they're having a debate, whereas estrogen and progesterone are not particularly responsive to the world around us. They are going to do what they do no matter what, with the exception of if we don't have enough literal food and nourishment in our bodies will secrete these hormones in a cyclical fashion and continue to do so for the entirety of our reproductive years. And while yes, women have testosterone as well, and not everything is perfect and exact, and it's not always going to be exactly the same one month as it is to the next, the general overall cycle that we go through is actually pretty reliable. And if you pay attention to it, you might find that she's a lot easier to handle and deal with than if you ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. As per usual, my guys and my gals, thank you so much for listening. Love and appreciate you. Let me know in the comments of this video or this podcast episode if this one resonated. And again, I do also have 5 unhinged things that a lot of women don't necessarily understand about men out, so feel free to check them out if you haven't already. Thank you for taking this little tea time with me as I share some of my thoughts and my contemplations, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.